Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Michael Ziskowski, and I have the pleasure of introducing a high school intern that's been with us this summer. Her name is Tara Balakrishnan. Hopefully I'll get that right. Tara is a high school student at Redmond High and will be a senior this fall, 2011. And she's been working this summer to evaluate the services for cloud-based services from the Project Hawaii effort on a mobile Windows Mobile 7 device. And she's made a really nice project that she'll go into in detail called ChatArt. In addition to that, I thought I would mention that Tara was a finalist in an intern-wide competition for all interns at Microsoft for another WP7 application that she wrote outside her time at Microsoft called Pictionary. And so I encourage folks in the audience and viewing online to also take a look at that if you have a chance. In addition to being a rock star developer here at Microsoft this summer, Tara is also into robotics, and she participated in the VEX Robotic Championship last summer. And she also has some hobbies outside of the technology field, where she has been studying Indian classical dance since the age of 3 and has performed in various places around the Pacific Northwest. So with that, I'd like to welcome Tara to the stage.
All right, so hi everyone. Good afternoon, I'm Tara, and I wanted to thank my mentor Mike for helping me out this summer. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about an application that I developed called ChatArt, and it's a Windows Phone application. So first, a little bit about me. I am going to be a senior at Redmond High School, and this summer I worked with Microsoft Research Connections, and I worked on developing an application for the Windows Phone that leverages the Hawaii services, specifically the relay and rendezvous services. So the goal of the relay service is to connect users across the cloud, and I wanted to use the service in my application. My application is called ChatArt, and it allows users to interact through a pictographic messaging system. So instead of just sending text messages, you can draw an image and send that to either a single friend or groups of friends. So let me tell you a little bit about Project Hawaii. So the purpose of the Hawaii services is to utilize the cloud's computing power. Instead of just doing everything on the client device, you can send something to the cloud and utilize that power for what application you're trying to accomplish. There are 4 services. One is speech-to-text. The other is optical character recognition. And the 2 that I worked with were the relay and rendezvous services. The relay service allows you to send messages across the cloud, and the rendezvous service lets you associate a device with a friendly name. So let's talk a little bit more about the relay service. The relay service allows you to create an endpoint, which is a unique ID for each device, which can be used to transmit and receive messages. The endpoint is a location in the cloud where you can send and receive messages from. You can also have a group which allows you to send messages to a number of people instead of just a single endpoint. The relay service also has a storage queue that you can read messages from, so you don't have to read it instantaneously. You can read it at any point. And the rendezvous service allows a user to associate a friendly name with that endpoint ID. And the endpoint ID is a series of characters and numbers that's like 10 or 12 characters long. So it's not very user-friendly to have to type in that ID each time you want to send a message. So instead, you associate a friendly name with that ID. So the services that it provides allows you to register a friendly name, deregister the name, associate the ID with the friendly name, disassociate it, and look up the ID that is associated with a particular friendly name. So this is my application is called ChatArt, and here are some of the main features of it. It allows you to communicate across multiple devices, send and receive both pictures and text messages. And since it's on a Windows phone, it's obviously touch-based drawing. And my goal was to design an interactive user interface for the application. And I employed the native storage of the Windows Phone for chat history. So here's just a couple screenshots of the application. It shows, in the first screenshot, you can see the homepage. And when you click New Chat, I'm creating a new endpoint. So it checks to see if there are any old endpoints that aren't in use any longer. And if there are such endpoints, it deletes them and creates a new endpoint. Then it allows you to select either friends or a group of people that you want to chat with. Right now, I don't really employ the rendezvous service entirely. The only instance I'm using it is actually for player 2. So you can either type in the entire group ID or select one of the existing IDs that I have. That'll later be more fully implemented. And this is the basic drawing interface. I'll later do a demo, but it just shows you that you have a color palette, since drawing in black and white is obviously not that exciting. You can type in a text message and send that, as well as send a drawing. And the last picture shows the history, so you can see the messages as people send it to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture of the program and how one phone communicates with the other. So what I have is, in my first phone, I draw a picture, and then I draw the picture on a canvas element, and I convert that element into a writable bitmap and store each individual pixel in a byte array, which I send over the relay service. And that information is sent to either a specific endpoint that I identify or a group, based on which group or user I join with. And phone 2 then decodes the byte array into another writable bitmap and pastes that image into the history panel. We'll go a little bit into how drawing works, as well as storing the image. So for drawing, I record touch data points. So every time you touch the phone, it records a point, and it connects a line between those points. And that's how the drawing works. I use the rendezvous service to store a group ID with the friendly name, which was player 2. And I access the group ID from the cloud each time I click on the player 2 button. And then for using storage, as I receive a message, I add the image to the native storage on the client, and I access the storage to display the image. So this is just a bit of feedback that I got from asking people what they thought of the user interface. And for the most part, they seem to think that the GUI is pretty intuitive. The main suggestion that I received was to work a little bit on the joining group page to have that incorporate, to be more intuitive to understand and have maybe better instructions. So with that, I'm going to go into a demo. If we could switch over to the Wolf Vision. Okay. So here's the launch screen. I'm going to start up the application on both my devices. And when I click New Chat, I'm creating a new endpoint. And here I'm going to, when I click on Group, you can see a group ID that I just created. I can either type that ID in, or I can use one of the existing groups that I have. For sake of time, I'm going to use an existing group. So right here in the red, you can't really see it, but it just tells you what your endpoint ID and your group ID is, just to make sure that you're joining with the correct group that you want to be associated with. So I'm going to go into the palette on this phone. You can see there's different colors that you can choose from. I'll just choose green. And I'm going to send maybe some grass over to another phone. Yes. So here I can also enter text, and when I click the add button, it'll add it to the canvas. I'm not actually sending a text message, I'm just sending a picture with text in it. So let's just add enter text here. And I'm going to send it across to another phone. So this is the main tab, and in the history tab, you'll see the pictures. Okay. Yeah, so I clicked it twice, actually, or I guess more than twice. And you'll see that the grassy field has appeared on the other phone. So something that I'm actually working on is being able to edit a picture that has been sent to you. But right now, all you can do is respond by drawing a new picture and sending that across. So if we can switch back to the, yes, thank you. So these are a couple of, hold on. All right, a couple of challenges that I faced while creating this. One is the writable bitmap. I initially had absolutely no clue how to convert a UI element into a bitmap. So I asked a couple of people for help, and I found the writable bitmap class that allows you to convert a UI element into a bitmap. And then I copied each individual pixel into a byte array, which I sent across the relay service. The second issue that I had, not necessarily on this application itself, but on another application I was making, was to produce a smooth drawing experience. And so I had the other application that I created was a Pictionary app, and instead of sending a completed message over, I would draw and have it update in real time. And since each call to the relay service is an asynchronous method, it was creating a number of threads over like a couple hundred, and that was causing the drawing to lag a bit, so I had to find a way to limit that. And this still needs to be implemented, but right now the data is being stored across several instances of the application, and it's not, so I store each message locally, and I need to clear that queue between instances of the application. So I'm still working on that. There's a little bit to be improved on the application itself. So some ideas for future investment. One thing is to improve the user experience and to particularly enhance the join group page to make that a little more intuitive so people can understand without having me explain it to them. So going on to group control. So fully employ the Hawaii Rendezvous service. Right now, the only instance, as I mentioned, that I use it is for the Player 2 button. And maybe, add a help guide and various other features that would make it a little bit easier for users. And the last thing, just some additional features that I could add is having the user be able to edit sent pictures and also be able to save a picture to a photo library. Say someone sends you this really nice picture that you want to save and maybe send to all your friends who don't have this application. So you want to be able to save it to the photo library and then send it out to whoever you want. So these are some uses for the application. Communication in emerging markets, so help people who are otherwise unable to read and write communicate. So especially with the increase of popularity with mobile devices, if people can just send a picture communicating what they want. So say they want to tell their parent to go out and buy milk, and they don't know how to read and write, they draw a picture of a milk can and a cow and say, and their parent could understand that, okay, my son or daughter wants them to go and buy milk. And of course, the main idea is just to have fun, sending and creating pictures, sending it to all your friends, and maybe playing fun games like tic-tac-toe. And last way it could be used is as a teaching tool, teaching students different languages that they previously have no experience with. So associating like maybe a picture with a word, and that'll allow it to be a little bit more memorable for them. All right, so does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Have you thought about being able to augment existing pictures? So I take a picture of something with my phone, but I need to write on it and say, this is the piece that I'm missing here, or this is where my house is
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
And how hard do you think that would be?
I haven't worked with pictures that you actually take with the phone, so I'm not entirely sure how hard it would be. As long as you can convert it into an image, then it's very easy to add to the canvas and draw on top of it.
Meaning a big map.
Just, no, any image.
JPEG.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick one? It's very interesting. You mentioned the editing side. I think you mentioned that you were referring to the receiving end. But what if I draw something and I say, oh, I forgot to add a smiley face? Can I add to an existing?
Yes.
And then send that one?
Yes.
And then you send the whole thing again, or is there some update mechanism that you use?
So, are you assuming that you've already sent the image, or?
Right. For example, well, you sent the grass, and then I say, now I want to add a sun or something else to the picture.
So what
and send
happens
again.
when you send it? When you send it, the entire image isn't deleted. So if you do, for example, happen to delete the image on your canvas, then again, working with this, if you click an element in the history box, it should paste it onto the canvas, and then you can continue editing it. There's also like an erase button, so if you draw with white on top of something, it'll go back to its original state.
To answer the question, then when you'll resend the whole image. correct?
Yeah.
You cannot put.
I think it would be too complicated, right, to do updates, because then you have to make sure
Yeah,
the
yeah.
state on the other
Yes.
side is, yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
it's quite tricky.
Yeah, were there any features to the relay or rendezvous service that you would have found useful that we could add?
I think one thing would be maybe deleting a message in the queue. I couldn't find.
I mean, that you sent, but nobody has read?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that would be useful. I tried doing that once, but I couldn't find any. Yeah.
Everybody has to read it for it to go away.
Yeah.
Have you talked to people or thought about how it might actually get used? You know, like what kind of scenarios other than just sort of, oh, I just want to send a picture and the others will like it, but something larger happening than.
Yeah. In terms of using it, I've mainly thought about ways that people would have fun with it, because that's the primary purpose that I would use it for. I haven't really given much thought to how other people would use it, though. But, yeah.
Roughly what file sizes are the bitmaps that you're sending?
They're around, I think. Well, the array that I send is about 900,000 bytes, so yeah,
Almost a megabyte.
almost a megabyte.
Yeah, but I think being intelligent about how you compress and send it, you want to just send the points.
Yeah, that's something I've considered
later,
instead
I
of
think.
sending the entire image, is just sending the points that you draw.
Draw or something.
That's what she was
Incremental.
saying.
I mean, yeah.
That's
But no,
what
we
Rico
got
was
it.
saying.
Yeah.
Or
That's
even if it is a new image, if you had access to some nice compression
Yeah,
model that you could
that you
just
could
send.
do.
Yeah.
Right off the bat now, you should be able to
Yeah.
find a compression.
Right now, all I
service
do
and
is
how
send the entire image over, but yeah, I've thought about just, if the file size gets too big, just sending the points maybe that you have drawn and redrawing it on the other end.
Just for fun, can I suggest something to you? There's this thing called run-length encoding where you look at pixels a little bit, and if they didn't change much, you may want to have fun just playing with implementing that yourself. Or basically
What is
say,
that
I want to
called?
send a pixel, oh, that's the same value of another one. So you send a small code, didn't change. Or say, put 10 black pixels here, or put 10 white pixels here, something like that, a little code like that. It's amazing how a simple code like that can actually reduce quite a bit for the kinds of drawings that you have in mind. Yeah.
And that's actually why you see a little bit of a lag. It's not like sent instantaneously because the message is so big. So. Yeah. Okay.
How do the groups, once a conversation's going, can someone join the group or leave the group or?
Yeah, so to stop receiving any messages, you have to delete your endpoint from the group, or just delete the endpoint. And by closing the application, you're no longer receiving any messages, because when you close the application, I delete your endpoint.
But a new endpoint can join the same group, right?
Yeah, a new endpoint can join the same group. They won't receive any messages in the past. They'll only receive messages from the moment in which you join the group.
How do you join a group?
So what I have on the screen is you can type in a group ID and join the group, or else I'm probably going to implement Rendezvous a bit more, and so make it a lot easier for you. Tell your friend name and have them type in that name and join that group instead of typing a long list of numbers. So what I do is every time I run the application, I'm actually creating a new group in case you want to create a new chat experience.
Is it kind of like Google Hangouts and that I could be the only one in the group, but then other people can,
Yeah.
can join? Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
What about getting this into Marketplace? Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, sure. That'd be nice if,
We can make it happen.
yeah.
A lot of testing.
Well, I'd be interested in hearing what the group thinks of it. I mean, it's functional, has some really strong legs under it, but
I guess with the plans, people will have to pay for the data, right? I'm guessing. So if somebody goes, they can charge for it, or
Right now, the services are offered as a research service without cost. We're covering the cost on that. There's no guarantee in service, so
no, but in terms of just getting it off.
yeah, it would just work.
You don't want people to like
Why is
go
it
crazy and get a big bill at the end because they got
Yeah.
all these
Well, I
900.
was talking to a couple of people yesterday, and they said they're probably going to limit the size of messages that you can send. So, but right now everything's free though.
So does Hawaii put a limitation on how many endpoints can be assigned to a particular group's big, so that would be a functional limitation on how many people could join a group?
No, any number of people can.
No, we didn't have any limitations.
And don't go write a bot.
No, it'd be pretty easy for someone to deny us service attack us, yeah.
But I think these are
It's a good
learnings.
question, though.
These are learnings coming out from projects like this,
Right.
which are going to guide our design.
Absolutely.
I've done a lot of work with sort of younger kids, and I think they would be really interested in this, particularly if you could do sort of the co-editing where I can modify the picture that you sent, the feature that you talked about.
Yeah.
One of the challenges probably is those younger kids, although they're starting to get phones, they typically don't have Windows phones, but I could see that demographic being really interested in it. And I have some videos of them doing some sort of real-time drawing, shared drawing distributedly, that it seems of a similar flavor to what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Pictionary app didn't show.
Yeah, that's
but-
real-time drawing.
Yeah, that's right up that alley where the whole idea was that as you're drawing in real time, the other person sees it, but there was no reverse drawing capability.
No, you can-
They try to guess what you're drawing.
Right.
Well, if both people draw, you can actually like have collaborative drawing. So when you draw on your phone, it appears on the other phone, but simultaneously someone else is drawing on their phone and it appears on your phone. So
Yeah.
Did you use Hawaii for that?
yes, I used the relay service for that as well.
One of the ideas put forth for that project was almost a Turing test concept to see if you could fake, to see if the person on the other side was a robot or real. See how accurate you can be at who's drawing the picture, which I thought was a really cool idea. That came from Peter Lee, actually.
The other thing that we saw kids do, again, this would be a little more complex feature, but if you utilize the camera on the phone, then you can sort of also project an image that they can. What the kids did in our study is they went under the camera, so one kid's face was there, then the other one drew features on the face. Or they put their arm there and they drew the other person drew tattoos.
Yeah. That would definitely be a lot of fun to play with, so. Yeah. Is there any other questions? Then thank you all for coming, I guess. Okay, well, I don't know.
With the Pictionary app, does it just send basically the lines that have been drawn?
Yeah, it sends some different information. Sends the line, or it sends actually 2 points. It sends the color or thickness, stuff like that, and then on the other end it redraws the line based on the 2 points that I sent. Okay, great, thank you all.